Zazi, good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. What concerns did you have about the voting process? Why did you vote for that process to be postponed?
I mean, firstly, there's certain provisions of the Companies Act that were not complied with. This was not only raised by us, but was raised by other creditors in the meeting. And secondly, obviously, we believe that the business rescue plan is scant, it's poorly developed, and it's deficient. And we simply don't believe it would attract a yes vote. So we could not go ahead with and not put our voice out there for an adjournment in order to make sure that we have a proper business plan that will attract a yes vote.
Yeah, and I know you've argued the postponement to July offers you, government, and the creditors an opportunity to improve on the plan. What improvements do you want to see?
I mean, look, the business rescue plan is very scant on detail. For one thing, the employee numbers, which is most closest to our hearts, of 1,000, has no detail as to what the 1,000 looks like, how many aircrafts will that 1,000 accommodate. It has none of that detail. It's got no detail on what they're doing about the lease costs. Nothing at all. It's got no detail on aggressively competing, which is now in July, and how they're actually going to have a management that is strong, that is capable, and get rid of the last executive and the board that led us here. It's got no detail on what they're going to do about lease and fuel costs and maintenance costs that are just milking the airline dry. So there's many assumptions that were lacking from the business rescue plan, and we've done that work. And we believe that the work we've done can be factored into this plan. And we are positive that should that happen, it will attract a yes vote.
The business rescue practitioners don't agree with you, Zaz. In fact, they believe this postponement has a detrimental impact on the airline, and that it will also fast-track liquidation.
Well, look, if you saw that 69% of the creditors, and please note that we are very small creditors, so we didn't really influence that vote much. So obviously the logic of what we put forward made sense to the majority of the creditors, which also could mean that the majority of the creditors were really not convinced about the business rescue plan. So I think it was a much better move than a no vote. That would have seen SSA plunged into liquidation, which is what we don't want to see.
Should this plan or the revised one be adopted, the next focus will then be on funding government needs to acquire. The finance minister didn't allocate any funding for SAA. It appears it will have to come from private investors. Government indicated this past week that there was an expression of interest in a new and restructured SAA from private funders. Was more information given to you as stakeholders of these private funders?
No, and I think during the process with the LCF, which is the Leadership Compact, we asked many times, what are we looking like in terms of the SEPs that are available? We never got that information until after the business rescue plan was announced, where we were told there's a few strategic equity partners. That information was never given to us. And I mean, it's also worrying that the government all of a sudden in the talks we're talking about being a majority stakeholder, and now we hear in recent reports that they're okay to be a minority stakeholder, which is completely different from the conversations we had. So we're very concerned right now, but we obviously are still willing to talk with relevant stakeholders such as the BRP, the DPE, and develop a plan that will actually work for the future of South African Airways.
Yeah, Zazi, correct me if I'm not wrong, but I remember seeing a statement, I think from NUMSA and you guys at SACA, that you have identified or have been in conversation with some private investors who were interested in having a conversation with government on SAA. Whatever happened to those talks? Did you have those private investors that you were in talks with or that you knew of that were interested in buying at least a stake in this airline?
Yes, I think the statement that you're referring to was around SA Express, which was company from the UAE, which I always had an interest from the UAE in terms of the airlines here, including South African Airways. But in particular, we're talking about Express.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still trying to battle the DPE to actually push that through, and of course that must be done in conjunction with the liquidators. But I mean that could be affected, and workers could return to work because Express can literally be saved right now.
Yeah. Do you believe government, Zazi, when it says there are private funders that have expressed interest in coming to work with government on this new restructured SAA, especially with these scant details and them not being able to provide details of who these funders are and how far are the talks with them?
Clement, I do believe them, and why I do is because a lot of people have reached out to us because they could not get any responses from the DPE. So we've had to sort of push people to say, no, speak to the DPE, put whatever we are not the ones, the decision makers here. There's been many conglomerates that have come and said, and this is through legal teams that wanted to engage the DPE. So we believe there is an interest, because I'm sure, anyone would be happy to buy SAA for cheap right now. And, it's
still a bit risky.
It's a steal, and it is extremely risky. Yeah. But we don't have the details, unfortunately, Clement, regarding the SEPs.
All right, Zazi Sibanyoni, thank you so much for speaking to us on ENCA on this Saturday morning.